Besides, whoever's inside that thing that attacked the bridge, they'll lead us back to the Junkers. And once they're handled, we're going after Talon.
Hey guys, my name is Shroomy. I have a lot of different names and I just really like lore. Well, once again, I feel like I say this every time now, but did not expect a new comic so soon. This time around, we got a comic called Left Behind, and focuses on Wrecking Ball and Winston reuniting. This is a huge deal for anyone who's been a long-running fan of these characters. This has been a background thing people have wanted to see for just about 8 years, ever since Wrecking Ball officially became a hero, so it's really cool we're finally getting that. As usual, I'm going to be breaking this down by talking about the actual story itself, giving a recap for those who didn't read, then we're going to be going into my thoughts, because there is a lot to this one and a lot to unpack, and I'm excited to talk about it. Anyways, before getting too deep, don't forget to like and subscribe like usual. Anyways, let's get right into it by talking about a little recap of the comic. After the events of D.mon's hero trailer, D.mon has tried to get into Wrecking Ball's mech for a little while now. She tries to appeal to his morality, soldier to soldier, but still no luck. So, Mecha is forced to call in backup from the smartest gorilla they know, Winston, to get into the mech. When he arrives, Winston tries to persuade whoever's inside, but Wrecking Ball already knows Winston, and is angered to see him here. After Winston begins to start breaking in and trying to get into the mech, Hammond breaks out, and says he's had those restraints off for hours, and is ready to face down Specimen 28. Winston, not sure who this is or why they just said his name from the lunar colony, is shocked to see Hammond jump out of the mech mid-fight. He assumed Hammond had remained on the colony, and thought of him every day. The two used to be extremely close when they were younger, and were best friends. They had planned to leave the colony together one day, until Winston had assumedly left, but now we get to see Winston's side of the story. Hammond explains how he hitched a ride on Winston's rocket, whose design was stolen from Hammond. Winston quickly explains that he found the blueprints for the rocket in the lunar colony base systems, and that he never meant to hurt or leave him. He looked everywhere for Hammond, but eventually had to give up and just leave. Confused and unsure whether to trust Winston, Winston does apologize to Hammond, and says he'll do anything to make up what's happened to him. But he needs to know what the Junkers are planning first. Hammond finally begins to open up, not fully trusting Winston, but doesn't want anyone else to get harmed. He explains Mauga came to Junkertown and convinced the Queen to work with Talon, in exchange for helping them finish the repairs to their airship. What did Talon gain? Well, they only really wanted one thing, the Busan EMP. The guys at Talon were apparently planning to hook up some type of gravity tech to it, making it possible to affect an area on a continental scale. Hearing this, Winston is worried, and thanks Hammond for the info. He promises to do what he can to let him go free. He offers for Hammond to join Overwatch, but the hamster declines, saying he found a new home with the Junkers. Later, Winston returns with the news Hammond can leave, but Hammond has already escaped, taking a lot of snacks and basically all the parts of his mech that are important with him. Out on the ocean waters in the East China Sea, Hammond meets up with Junker Queen, saying he's ready to leave the past behind him, and while not fully repairing the friendship he had with Winston, at least getting it in a better position, and feeling better about himself. He's ready to go home and build a new mech. So, this has been so long coming. I'm so excited, and it's a really good short story as well to finally get to see these two characters interact, and I'm really happy they didn't immediately jump back into a friendship. I was kind of worried we'd see Wrecking Ball and Winston become best friends again, and I'm glad to see that they're not at that point yet. Hopefully, we'll be able to see Wrecking Ball again whenever we do a storyline with maybe Liu Chang and the Space Apes down the road. That is something I want to bring up, of course, is their two dynamics. I mentioned in the breakdown a little bit ago, but these two have been friends for a very long time. When they were both children on the lunar colony, they found each other and became close buddies, basically best friends. And they always dreamed about leaving together. So in the short story Thoughtless Gods, we get to hear Hammond's side of things and how Winston basically left him. He was crushed, but we all kinda knew this wasn't the full story. Now, we do know that, of course, Winston never meant to leave him behind, it just kind of was an accident. Now, all of this does make sense, and it's a really cool moment of basically culminating this story that's been in the works for years at this point. However, they are in very different places now. Part of me wonders what would have happened if Winston and Wrecking Ball left the colony together. Would they both be Overwatch agents? That would be something really cool to see explored down the road. But of course, Wrecking Ball doesn't really need that because he's found a new home with the Junkers, and that's all he needs. The other big thing in here is Winston is the only character in this who knows Wrecking Ball is a hamster. I was wondering if this was going to become a big thing, a big reveal that D.mon was going to find out, and everyone outside of the Junkers, but no. Winston is the only one that knows Wrecking Ball is a hamster still. Of course, the Queen knows, and Junkrat, Roadhog, the Junkers, we learned that they knew about this for a while, but the outside world doesn't even know he exists. So, this is something that is probably going to be important down the road, because if Liu Chang ever hears that Wrecking Ball, or Hammond, has made it off the colony, they're going to be getting their hands on him, or trying their hardest to. So, that's something that we need to keep an eye on. However, aside from Winston and Hammond, something else important here is the Junkers dynamic. We get to see that, yes, Junkrat is back in Junkertown. He is one of the Junkers again, along with Roadhog. So that's another thing that I've seen a lot of confusion about, but in this comic, he just seems to get on the Queen's nerves a lot, but definitely not to the point of being banished again. Roadhog isn't really in this as much, but we do get to see him in a couple frames, so yeah, he's here too. Another character or two to point out is Geiger and Mary from Junker Queen's animated short make their first appearance in literal years. It's really cool to see these two be reoccurring Junker characters that we get to check in on. They're kind of like Queen's inner council of sorts, so it was nice to get a little check-in with them and just, well, get them seen again for once. Of course, everything with the Junkers now aside, I do think Junker Queen and Wrecking Ball's dynamic is the highlight of that entire area. The Queen really does seem to love this hamster, and the hamster, of course, loves the Queen. They seem like a dynamic duo or best buddies. Obviously, Wrecking Ball is the Queen's right-hand guy, so I couldn't see them being separated. Maybe down the road, we can start to see more storylines where the Junkers get involved, and maybe the Liu Chang storyline is one of them. Now, on to the bigger thing and the bigger reveal from this, which has kind of thrown a wrench into my theories on everything. What exactly is Vendetta going to be using this EMP for? If you don't know, I've had the theory for a while that the EMP is going to be used to break into the prison, aka the Icelandic prison Watchpoint Grimsvoten from all of the concept art from the Spotlight. We know that's going to be an upcoming map, and it would make a lot of sense if a hero, or an upcoming hero, gets broken out of there. However, because this EMP is being upgraded to a continental scale, it has me speculating what exactly the purpose of it is. And since it is an EMP, I can only really think of one faction that might be hurt from this: Null Sector. Now you might be wondering, how exactly would anything going on here in Iceland affect Ramatra? Well, there's two theories with this. The first theory is the one I had for a long time. If Ramatra's in Antarctica, and the Queen could kind of use that as a way to test her EMP, because only Omnics are really there right now, that would cause Ramatra to have to come out of the shadows and get involved in the storyline again. However, how does this tie into the prison? Well, if he was hypothetically not in Antarctica and in Greenland, a place where there is a ton of snow, I could see that maybe this could make a little bit more sense. Iceland and Greenland are right next to each other, so maybe a continental EMP blast would affect both, and the prison is a ramification of everything else that happened. Maybe whoever gets out of the prison isn't even going to be a part of Talon. They may be a part of a whole other faction. I've seen a lot of rampant speculation on who exactly could be broken out, and of course, those updated hero silhouettes are being brought up here. I really don't know yet still, and I'm going to be making a video this weekend on my thoughts on those. So keep an eye out on socials, and if you like that kind of stuff, like and subscribe to see when I post that. Sorry for the shameless plug. But yeah, I am really curious to see how exactly this narrative with the EMP bomb is going to go. Having this continental EMP bomb is such a power play. They could just use this to basically raise their standing in the world and threaten the world with it. They could use it on Null Sector and knock out all of Null Sector's armies, who are one of the only more strong armies that are capable of fighting Talon right now. If that happens, Ramatra would be forced to come out of hiding, and would have to get his hands dirty once again. Then we could see Null Sector get involved more. But that's a different idea. I've seen some speculation online that maybe Doomfist is going to be breaking someone out of prison to help him. I do like this idea, and he's going to be taking advantage of this kind of EMP going off and all this chaos to get who he wants out of prison. Maybe this is going to be one of these two remaining heroes coming later this year. However, I don't really know where things are going to go from here in that regard. There's a lot of potential to wherever the story is going to be going from here, and everything in this short story is really setting up Vendetta to become a powerful figure in the world. I don't see Vendetta losing anytime soon, especially in the arc called The Reign of Talon, so we're probably going to be seeing some pretty crazy stuff at BlizzCon in just a couple weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a big story beat happen here. Maybe the EMP is used and we have to see what the ramifications of that are, or maybe BlizzCon is going to be showing off those next two heroes. However, what happens next is going to be pretty important to the overall narrative, and yeah, just going to be crazy to see it unfold. Anyways, that's all from me in this one. What did you guys think of this short story and everything involved in it? Did you enjoy it? Did you dislike it? Do you think things were rushed? And of course, what do you think Vendetta is going to be doing with the EMP bomb? I always read your guys' comments, and I always love seeing everybody speculate and theorize. So, yeah. That's all from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!